this is a simulation.
It's quite an opening line, isn't it? Flat. No compromise.
It is. And it stops you in your tracks. I mean, we read so much source material for these deep dives.
All sorts of things, yeah.
Research papers, articles, you name it. And usually there's a warm-up, a kind of what if,
A gentle lead-in.
Yeah.
But this text we're looking at today, it just doesn't have time for that. It just states it as fact.
Exactly. It's a hard axiom. This is a simulation, period.
It sets a very specific stage. It's not asking you to suspend disbelief. It's asking you to accept a premise so it can show you the schematics.
The mechanics of the system.
Precisely.
And that's our mission today. We're making this source material, this list of rules for reality, and we're going to treat it like a technical manual.
Right.
We're not debating if it's a simulation. We're going to assume the text is right and just see what that means. Because if it is, there are parameters, there's code.
And apparently a user interface.
It's a bit trippy, but stick with us.
And I think that's where the real value is. Whether you take it literally or as a metaphor, the structural insights here are, well, they're profound. We'll look at the hardware origins.
And the networking, how we connect.
And then the command line, how we actually input changes into the whole system.
So let's start there with the hardware. The text moves right from this is a simulation to a pretty rigid constraint. It says, when and where you were born matters.
And that's the first cold splash of water.
Mm-hmm.
In our culture, we love the idea of the blank slate, don't we?
Oh, absolutely. Total free will.
The idea that you are just pure potential, untethered from your background. This text just says no. The starting coordinates are absolute.
It really feels like a rejection of that whole self-made myth.
Yeah.
If you spawn into a simulation, you spawn at a specific timestamp, a specific location.
Mm-hmm.
And those aren't just background details. They're the initial variables. They define the difficulty setting, the resources you get.
The plot arcs, even. It challenges the idea of total free will right out of the gate. If when and where matters, then you are context dependent. You can't understand yourself in a vacuum.
But then it gets even more specific. It doesn't just pin you to a time and place. It pins you to a lineage. It says you are the manifestation of your parent.
That word manifestation, it's so deliberate.
It is. It's not child or offspring. It's manifestation. To me, that sounds almost like software.
I think that's exactly the read. Sticking with the simulation lens, it implies an instance of a class in programming terms.
Okay, break that down.
Well, you have a parent class with certain attributes. The child class inherits those. You don't just look like your parent. You are literally running their source code.
That is a terrifying thought for anyone who's, trying to break some kind of generational cycle.
It is. It suggests your default settings, your temperament, your triggers, are all legacy code.
So you aren't a fresh start. You're version 2.0.
And the text isn't saying that to depress us, I think. It's to give us the schematics. You can't debug a program if you don't know what code is already running.
So you have to acknowledge it. You have to say, okay, this is my build.
Precisely. You have to audit your own code. Which parts are actually you and which parts are just the parent program running in a loop.
Okay, that makes sense. But then the text shifts gears. We've got our individual constraints, the spawn point, the legacy code, and now it zooms out. It says we all are connected.
This is the counterbalance. We're individually determined, but we're also collectively entangled.
But it's not just some vague, we're all one
Right.
kind of thing. It gets into the physics of how we're connected. It says everyone has Hishirot frequency, vibration, and energy at which they function.
Again, look at the precision of the language. Frequency, vibration, these are measurable oscillatory properties.
It takes it from philosophy to wave mechanics. If everyone has a frequency, that implies we are all broadcasting something.
Constantly. Think of it like resonance. If you have two tuning forks and they're different notes, they can't transfer energy. They might even cancel each other out.
Destructive interference.
Exactly. But if they match, you get resonance. You get amplification.
So when the text says everyone has Hishirot frequency, it's explaining why some human connections feel so glitchy. It's not just a personality clash.
It's signal dissonance.
Yeah.
A bandwidth issue. If I'm on a high-frequency protocol and you're on a low-frequency one, we can't. We can't handshake. The data packets get dropped.
Which totally explains that feeling when you meet someone and it's just effortless. The latency drops to 0. You're on the same carrier wave.
Mm-hmm. And the text acknowledges this is hard. It says, there are many ways to meet and stay in union with one. It treats that union, that synchronization, as a goal that takes effort.
You have to find the ways to modulate your frequency.
Right.
Okay, so we have our hardware, our birth, we have the network, our frequency. Now I want to get to the part that really got me, the user interface.
This is the pivot point of the whole text.
Because if this is a simulation, how do we do anything? How do we input commands? And the source material lists specific tools. The first one is the words have power.
And notice that implied capitalization. It's not saying words are descriptive. It's saying words are executable.
That is a huge distinction. We think of language as a label. I see a table, I say the word table, the word comes after the reality.
But this suggests the word comes before. In a computational system, words are what you type into the command line. When you write print, hello world, the words cause the manifestation on the screen.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate. This can sound a bit like magical thinking, right? Just say, I am successful, and it happens.
I don't think it's arguing for magic. I think it's arguing for cybernetics. The idea that the language you use literally defines the thoughts you can have.
So by limiting your language, you're limiting your world. You're rendering distance.
Exactly. And the opposite is also true. If words have power, then talking negatively about yourself isn't just low self-esteem. It's a self-executing script. You are programming the simulation to treat you that way.
Wow. That puts so much weight on just casual conversation. If I say, oh, I'm always late.
You're confirming the parameter. The simulation goes, okay, user 1 is always late. Accepted.
And it's not just words. The text lists other inputs, names, symbols, visuals, and then this really short, punchy line, color matters.
That one jumps out, doesn't it? Color matters.
It does. Why single out color? Of all the things in reality, texture, temperature, smell, why is color the one that gets its own line?
Well, let's go back to the last section. Frequency. What is color?
Light at a specific wavelength.
It's visible frequency. It's the only range of frequency we perceive directly with our eyes.
Yeah.
If the simulation runs on vibration and energy, then color is raw data input.
So red isn't just red.
It's a specific wavelength of around 700 nanometers hitting your optic nerve and, well, triggering a physiological response. It's a hex code for your biology.
An environmental modifier. Okay. And what about symbols? The text groups names, symbols, visuals together.
I think symbols are compression algorithms. Think about a desktop icon, a tiny picture of a trash can. You click it, and the computer runs a whole complex deletion script.
You don't see the script, just the symbol. It's a shortcut.
There's zip files of meaning, corporate logo, a stop sign. These are tiny visual inputs that unpack massive amounts of cultural and behavioral code almost instantly.
So the text is saying, be careful what icons you're clicking on. Be careful what symbols you surround yourself with.
Because they're constantly executing scripts in your subconscious.
It really paints a picture of reality as this dense, programmable environment. We're just swimming in code words, colors, symbols, and we're not even paying attention.
We're acting like NPCs, non-player characters, just walk in our pre-programmed loops. The text is an invitation to become a player.
Which brings us to the why. What's the point of all this structure? The text says something I found comforting at first, but now it feels more rigorous. It says, each and every aspect of your life is there for a purpose.
It's so easy to read that as a greeting card. Everything happens for a reason.
Right.
But in the context of a simulation, purpose means function. In a well-coded system, you don't waste RAM. You don't write lines of code that do nothing.
So if it's in the simulation, it's functional. Even the bugs, the crashes, the really painful parts.
Yeah.
They're load-bearing structures.
And that shifts the question from why is this happening to me to what is this function doing?
That's the crucial shift. That's the new lens the text promises.
The deliverable,
yeah,
right?
It explicitly says that. It gives one a new lens perspective to see the world and what's happening around.
And that's what you get for understanding the system. You get the lens. When you stop seeing your parents' flaw as just them being difficult and see it as a manifestation of legacy code, you stop taking it so personally.
You start analyzing it instead.
Yes. When you see a bad day, not as bad luck, but as dissonant frequency, you stop wallowing and you start trying to tune your own dial.
You become a technician of your own life. It moves you from victimhood to agency.
You realize that while you didn't choose the hardware, your birth, and you didn't build the network.
You do have access to the keyboard, the words and the symbols.
That's the control you have.
So let's circle back for a second, because this is where the rubber meets the road for anyone listening. We have manifestation of parents on one hand.
And words have power on the other.
Exactly. There's a tension there. If I'm just running my parents' code, How much power can my words really have? Can I overwrite the operating system?
I think that's the ultimate question here.
Yeah.
And the answer, I believe, lies in the idea of software updates or patches.
Explain that.
You can't change the kernel. Your hardware is your hardware. You were born when you were born. But software is malleable.
So the words and the perspective, those are the patch files we write.
Yes. If you identify a bug in your legacy code, say, a tendency towards anxiety you inherited, that's the manifestation. But once you see it with the new lens, you can use words of power to write a patch.
A new subroutine.
But it requires active coding. You can't just hope it goes away. You have to type the commands every single day.
That's why the text is so insistent. Words have power. It's a continuous process. You're rewriting the script in real time. It makes you think about everyone listening right now. We're all just running these loops, sitting in rooms with colors that are affecting us, ignoring the symbols on our screen,
Repeating the same old phrases.
and wondering why the simulation keeps giving us the same output.
Why does this keep happening? Well, maybe check your inputs.
Check your frequency.
Yeah.
If you want a different station, you have to turn the dial. You can't just yell at the radio.
Right.
This text really is a manual. It's short, it's punchy, but it covers the entire stack. Origins, connection, interface, and purpose.
It's a system architecture for existence. And like any system, it works best when you understand the rules. You don't have to like them, but you have to acknowledge them to navigate the map.
So as we wrap this up, I want to leave everyone listening with a challenge. Test the simulation.
How so? A/B test your reality.
Exactly. Pick one interface tool, words, color, symbols, just one,
Okay.
and change that one input for a week. Change the words you use to describe your job, or, I don't know, change the color of your computer's background. Treat it like a beta test and see if the manifestation changes.
If the text is right, the output has to change. The simulation must respond to the code you enter.
It's a pretty provocative thought to end on, isn't it? That we might have that much control if we're just willing to touch the keyboard.
It's the only control we have.
This is a simulation. It sounds like a scary opening line, but maybe, in the end, it's actually the most hopeful one.
Because simulations can be hacked.
And they can be mastered. Thanks for diving in with us today.
Until next time, keep your frequency high.
And watch your words. See ya.